I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. First item on the agenda is to approve our agenda.
Move. Second.
Motion by Feldheim, second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, we have the opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to address the commission? Morning, Jared.
Morning. Well, it's kind of a weekly thing here.
Be a regular.
Last Tuesday, kind of had some events out there. Well, an invasion of the farm, kind of, maybe we'll put it that way. They showed up to survey, which was, I guess, drill rigs and drill 90 feet down. Was that all legal? I guess I feel it wasn't, but I don't know 100% about that. But I do know, when they were done drilling, they asked what they wanted to do with the slurry, and we told them to take it with them. Well, they took it with them right out of the field, dumped it into the ditch. And my question is, how come nothing happens when these guys do break the law, even little things like this? Because we've had trespassing, breaking and entering, false affidavits, and now littering. Like, I know maybe these are small things, but if I did it, I'm sure it would be something. I just wonder, why is there no repercussions ever to this company? And we made them clean that up, that stuff in the ditch. They said, well, the township's gonna have to deal with it. Well, I'm the chair of Warner Township, and we got after the sheriff to get him to clean it up. We don't want it out there. You don't get to go through your grass clippings or tree branches or couches or anything else in the ditch. We don't haul out just scoops manure and dump it into the ditch. I mean, how come they don't have to seem to just go by the basic rules? And how come nothing happens? I feel the state attorney's gotta get more pressure on, well, maybe just everything around. We're gonna watch this place turn into Chicago the way it seems anymore. I just kinda wanna voice my opinion that way. Urge you guys, we gotta keep this moratorium on, this county coalition thing that was talked about. I mean, it's time to buckle down, and these guys don't wanna play nice at all. They're gonna sue their way through everything. Well, it's time to hunker in and be strong and all stay together, because you guys have been very good with helping us. We just gotta keep them things all in place. So appreciate the time and just kind of make everything aware. I know it gets to be a broken record. I don't like coming in here any more than you guys like listening to me, I'm sure, but some of these things just need to be said and brought up, and I appreciate the time.
Okay. Thank you, Jared. Morning, Dennis.
I'm sure you guys are tired of looking at me too, not only when I was over there, but on this end too. But anyway,
All the time you think you're gone.
about every 2 weeks I show up, huh? I didn't take the opportunity to read the judge's order as far as what they could do as far as the survey out on Jared's land, or anybody's land for that matter. But the part that's puzzling to me is, unless specifically it said something in that court order about invasive survey, I would think that the sheriff's office and the state attorney's office had an opportunity to get a court order to put a stop to it. And that didn't happen. I think the public image is very good for the county when those kinds of things happen, and unless that court order specifically allowed for invasion by a large drilling unit and driving on, in this case, on Jared's bean field and cornfield, it just doesn't fit. And but anyway, hoping that some point in time maybe that we can get a stop to some of this stuff. And then to just bring up to date a little bit, on Thursday night, on the 22nd, went to a county commission meeting in Han County, and there's still some movement or moving forward on forming a coalition, getting 2 county commissioners to participate in a group to try to work with the legislators to come up with some meaningful trespass laws, some meaningful eminent domain separation, and I think Craig is the one that brought this up, some separation between the utilities and actual public use versus private gain. And I mean, that's a real issue. There's no question about it. And so hopefully, we're kind of late. I don't think there's any question that where the pressure's got to come now is on the PUC. We literally need in September bus loads, and I mean bus loads, 400 or 500 people get down to a pier, because I don't think there's any stopping this. I know there's a big movement to do a special session. It's not going to happen. I mean, I'm sorry. There's been requests for special sessions for a lot, probably, public things that have happened, and you don't get a special session in South Dakota State Legislature. So anyway, with that, I just cannot believe that even as much as the group's attorney actually requested the sheriff's office to be out there, and what, in essence, what they did is they played right into the hands of Summit Carbon Solutions by protecting them, to allow them to go invade with an invasive piece of equipment to drill holes. I mean, it's just, the whole thing is absurd. Where will it end? Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Ed?
Yes. I'll just stand here. I was the first one out to Jared's farm when this happened. I was the first landowner that came there, and I gotta tell you folks, as I approached his farm a mile away and I saw all their pickups that were surrounding him from every direction within a half a mile, it looked like he was under siege. And when I got up there and drove into his yard and picked up his wife, who was there alone with her daughter, it felt like a siege. And the first thing when I talked to the deputy, he told me that Summit Carbon Solutions told them that they would not be in any of his cropland. First thing they told him. And then they told him they wouldn't be there very long. Well, I got there at 9:30 in the morning. I think they arrived probably about 8:30 or so, 8:45. Jared wasn't even there. He was hauling soybeans. He was here in town. They were there till 3:30, 4 o'clock. I would call that not a short period of time. And I pointed out to the deputy, his wife, Jared's wife, went out on a four-wheeler to video and view them, and she came back in and said they're out in the soybean field, they're tearing it all up and they're drilling. And I pointed out to the deputy that what we've been facing for the last 2 years dealing with this company, that they told you 2 lies, and what are we going to do about it? And he said he'd file a report, but there wasn't much he could do about it. And I believe it all stemmed from Jared getting off on the false accusations they made, trying to convict him of contempt of court and whatever. And I'll tell you, if he hadn't had that video recording of them entering his shop, I firmly believe they'd have gotten away with it. That's the only thing that saved him. And I think that there should have been charges filed by your state's attorney for them filing a false affidavit. You fill out an affidavit under the threat of perjury. That's just like being under oath. And in that affidavit, they stated that all they did was knock on the door to the house and knock on the door of his shop. Neither one of those are true. They opened the door into his home, yelled in, frightened his wife, and then he has the video of him going in and out of his shop. And like Jared said, if any one of the rest of us would do something like that, I think we'd have charges filed on. And we can't understand why they're getting away with these types of things. Because if they get away with it now, they're going to do it on somebody else. He's just the first one. So I would urge the commission, maybe even pass a resolution of some kind, urging the county, the state's attorney, let's get some action done here. Let's enforce the law equally on everybody. What they put him through and his family is it's unconscionable in what they did. And who's next? Could be any one of us. So what I saw out there was just an absolute travesty all day. Drew was there, he came out, he saw it too. I mean, that day it was 101 degrees, 40-mile-an-hour winds, an extreme high danger situation. They were going through grass this tall, driving through. It's just, we're very lucky they didn't start a fire and burn the whole country up. I mean, they could have picked any other day to come there. And I believe it was just pure retribution for him getting off on the case that they showed up that day. I think they were trying to provoke him again. So, that's all I wanted to say, and I would urge, I think some action needs to be taken legally. I think they've gotten away with things too long. It's time we start fighting back a little bit instead of reacting. We need to punish them for the actions they're doing instead of sitting back and letting them keep doing this to the rest of our citizens. Thanks.
Thank you, Ed. Morning, Craig.
Morning, Commission. I know Ed said he was the first one there, only 'cause I called him 'cause Jared texted me when I was sitting in the commission meeting going in and out, but I was the second one there, and, I don't know what to say other than I'm not so sure board drilling is surveying. It's environmental surveying, and I think they overstepped their bounds there. I mean, that's why I didn't agree to the survey originally, 'cause I thought it was meets and bounds if you talk to a civil engineer. Most of them will say that isn't part of the, we got to the dumping in the township ditch, and obviously in the court order, Jared couldn't be within 300 feet. So I was there when the board drilling, and they drilled on one side of Mansfield Slough, and then they had to go across on Jared's property. And so I went up to Jared's dad and tried to figure out the most least intrusive way to get him across the slough and in, opened the gate. Drew was there at that time. They did ask me where they wanted to put the slurry, if they could dump it on the ground. I said, I think I know the answer, but I will check with the landowner, and Jared said absolutely not. Well, we came through the yard, got him in there, and I noticed the truck left with a 55-gallon barrel upright, and when I got him into the next field, Drew was in my pickup, and I said, Drew, they dumped that slurry in the ditch somewhere, 'cause that barrel's horizontal, and the guy wasn't going very long. So Drew and I went and found it. And I guess the commission's considering putting up cameras at dump sites, and if the state's attorney's office isn't gonna react any different there, you just well save the money and not put them up. 'Cause in my mind, I can't dump in the ditch like that, and neither can the public, and shouldn't. And the state's attorney should take action. And Drew and I were there, we took pictures, and there should be action. Yes, they cleaned it up, but it wasn't after he had to step on them a little bit, and I just think that's not a very good company. I've said it from the beginning. It's a company that doesn't hold the same values as I do for my farm bill. I did print off, clear back in March of #22, all the testimony that their company had submitted to the PUC, along with their environmental construction plan. Section 9, when it deals with non-hazardous disposal, go to section 9.4, subsection 9.4, it says their mud drillings will be dumped in an approved SCS site and/or with approval of the landowner. I guess their interpretation of an SCS approved site is a township road ditch. I think it's time that the state's attorneys, I agree with everybody, they gotta take some action, because if this thing is approved, it'll only get worse, not better. So I'm requesting the commission at least address it with the state's attorney's office to do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Anyone else? Anyone else would like to visit with us in an open session?
I'd like to just make a comment in regards to this as well. I was there, and when I got there, it appeared that Jared was actually under house arrest because that drilling rig was about 300 feet from his house. And the sheriff was there to keep him, or the deputy was there to keep him off or away from Summit. So Jared gave me a side-by-side, and I drove out there to see, or to help or see what was going on. And I had to drive through his cow yard. I had to drive through his tree groves, his old tree groves. I had to drive through his new tree grove, and I had to drive into his soybean field in order to get to this drilling rig that was punching 90-foot deep holes into his property. And Jared had to be at home being watched by the deputy so that he couldn't leave there and even go out on his own property. There's no surveying being done. They call it land surveying. I'm not sure how that applies, but the judge did not say there could be drilling accomplished. I think charges should be filed against Summit for doing what they should not have been doing. And it really is an egregious action that something needs to be done so that they know they're not gonna be able to do this again and again and again. And I recorded everything with that phone, so if you wanna see this stuff, you can. And then we did the same thing when Craig showed them a way out to that cornfield, we followed them out there. They rode right over the cornfield, out into it, drilled another 90-foot holes, and they were taking core samples, I don't know what for, nobody does. And the same thing happened there. They made a pretty good mess in his cornfield, we took pictures of all that, so we have all that on record here. So, anyway, I believe something needs to be done in order for this not to become worse. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, our time is up for public comment. Go ahead, Ross.
I'll just say I haven't looked at any of the criminal stuff. I did have a conversation with State's Attorney Anderson. He'd be willing to meet with you, Mr. Bosley, to talk about some of the allegations and why he's doing what he's doing. Given the appearance of a conflict, I have purposely stayed out of the criminal stuff. And Mark has agreed to look at any reports that come in that regard.
Okay. Gonna be at ease here for just a second. Are you rebooting now? We wanna make sure we're transmitting so the public can listen, view if they seem okay? Okay. Thank you for that public comment period. Sheriff Lunsman, do you have anything to add before we move on? Okay. Next up, second reading and possible adoption of ordinance 245 and 246.
Ordinance 245, an ordinance amending Title 4, second revision, Brown County Ordinance as amended to rezone certain described property, filed by Stephen Rosso to go from Egg Preservation District to Mini Egg District.
Is there anyone here to speak to ordinance 245? Anyone at all? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Weeks, second by Gage. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Ordinance 246.
Ordinance 246, an ordinance amending Title 4, second revision, Brown County Ordinance amended, the Brown County Ordinance Title 4, amending Title 4 zoning temporary fireworks ordinance, chapters 4.06, 4.14, 4.15.
Is there anyone here to speak to ordinance 246? Anyone at all? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Feldheim,
Second.
second by Weiss. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, approve and authorize chairman to sign the memorandum of government liability coverage with South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance. It's in the packet, if you had a chance to look at it. I would entertain a motion if everyone is in agreement that it should be signed.
I'll move it.
Motion by Dennert,
Second.
second by Gage. Is there any further discussion, any questions? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, Paul Nelson, City of Aberdeen Code Enforcement Officer, and Mike Scott, Landfill Manager. Discuss recent demolition. Morning, Paula. Morning, Mike.
Good morning.
Morning.
I brought you some stuff.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
if I could preface, I asked Paula to check with Mike with the new partnership that we have, just to give us a report on how that's working.
Okay.
So, thank you for being here this morning.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, from the city's perspective, I think it went splendidly. We did 3 houses, they came down in a total of 2 days, 3 houses and a garage. As a city, we decided that we would probably get a better price since we're just spending taxpayer dollars if we lumped them together and did multiple, which is why we bid 3 at a time. The prices came back fair. On the first picture, the 912 South 3rd Street, I think Sheriff Lunsman can speak to the fact that house had a lot of law enforcement involvement over the past several years, so the neighbors all came out to watch this. Prior to tearing all 3 of these houses down, Sheriff Lunsman sent some deputies. We went through the houses and the garage to make sure there was no humans inside before we did demolitions, because these types of houses tend to have people squatting in them. The only thing that is left to do at this house on South Third is the water disconnect. The city guys will do that on a day that they're, needing something to do. It was already zoned correctly, it was already platted correctly, so that one's ready for, a new house. The other two were side by side. The back house, the one near the alley, would have gotten its water from the front house. So there too, we tore down both houses, the garage in between, platted the lots together, are doing a lot size variance request to the Board of Zoning Adjustment so that somebody can just, as soon as somebody buys it, they can start building on it. The property to the north had a shed on their lot that encroached onto your guys' lot by about 8 inches, and they've removed the shed and all of their tree debris, so this lot's ready to go. Mike can speak on the landfill part, but I think we feel like it went well.
Landfill side, just another day. It's just all the trucks that come through, a few more added in the mix. It didn't affect us much at all. So as far as tipping fees, it was probably $5,000 to $6,000 worth, a couple hundred tons. So it was, like I said, it all went well.
Mm-hmm.
Contractor, we work with B&B all the time, so everybody knows where to go, what to do, and so yeah, went well.
So people are clear, can you talk about the legal status of these properties, how they get to this point, what the ownership situation is of the property and what happens to it afterwards? Is that something that?
Well, probably Ross can better attest to that, but these are owned by you guys.
Right.
100%, and so now there's no liens, no judgments, unless there was something on these lots prior. And from the city's perspective, if through the years we did any sort of abatements at these properties with snow or grass or whatever that have since been assessed that are just hanging out there, I'm pretty sure that both Brett, Joe, Ron, whoever on our end will say if that, is going to get the property sold quicker and get a new house put on this lot, I'm sure we would say, make that go away, because that's how excited we are to get these, back to buildable lots where somebody can put something on it. So it's your guys' lot to sell now, sell, gift, whatever you guys do with them.
So they've essentially become property of the county because of back taxes. They're essentially abandoned and a danger to the community by the time they get to this point. It's not a quick process, it takes a period of time.
It's the city's jurisdiction to condemn them, but technically we still won't.
Right.
So we have 3 more in the process that we have gone into and done interior inspections and have declared those also non-livable, not repairable. 2 of them are still within the 180-day redemption period. 1 is through. It has been my recommendation all along that we do not come in and demolish them until we're through that 180-day. We could do it based just on our condemnation and order a demolition, but then that's a whole other issue that we're dealing with another property owner. So they've sat there this long, a couple more months isn't going to matter. And so we have 3 more that I think the redemption period ends July 31st. So if the people don't come back and buy them back, because if they come back and buy them back, we're going to still proceed with them to do the same thing. But if they don't and they remain your ownership, we are prepared to go out for bids on August 1st-ish and do 3 more. These are not houses that we just didn't like or that we went in and thought, well, this needs to be cleaned up. These are houses that the foundations are falling down, there's holes in the roof. Maybe they fixed the hole in the roof and now there's inch-thick mold growing on the ceilings and the walls, and they're not good.
So it's a good partnership between the city and the county because you're taking financial responsibility to have them demolished with the understanding that we'll take the financial responsibility for accepting the rubble when it's completed. And it takes a piece of property that, essentially the county's got responsibility for because the back taxes have brought it to the county's ownership after an extended period of time to process. And it would cost the county, which is not something we're excited about doing, the money to tear it down when it's not necessarily a high priority, but it is important to the neighborhood and the community. that if it gets to that point, that it be done. And then you have essentially a buildable lot, which there is some folks that have an appetite and some resources to be able to do that in those circumstances. So it really, it's an extended process, but the partnership helps clean up some of the situations that we have in the community with essentially abandoned properties.
Agreed.
Yeah, and they're doing a really good job with, especially that one that had the two on it. Tell us that they're gonna have it all platted out and everything, so it's ready to be built on immediately, so.
And then once it's at that point, it's a much more marketable piece of property, and then we will turn around and dispose of that property through a sale and make it back available to anyone in the community who's interested in purchasing it, and then hopefully then building a new facility on it.
So for both of these areas where I say the city will still do the water disconnect, that will happen sometime yet this season. But if all of a sudden you guys are prepared to do your tax sale and that happens more quickly and you've got somebody ready, our normal procedure would be if somebody wants to build on a lot where there's an existing water service that needs to be disconnected, as long as they have a contractor there, we issue a credit back for the price of the disconnect. So if for whatever reason we didn't get to it before you guys sell it and somebody's ready to build, we have the procedure in place to make that allowance anyway. That's just our normal practice, so that wouldn't hold anybody up. We wouldn't want that to hold anybody up.
Great. Sounds like the partnership's working well. We appreciate the city's willingness to work with us and Mike's willingness to work with the city, so.
Yeah, and Sheriff Lensman was fantastic. He got his deputies there and.
Good.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Very
Good
good.
partnership, and it's a good story to tell, so.
Thank you.
Glad it's working well.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Thank you
All
for
right,
your time.
thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Now we all know
Thank you.
who does what.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. All right, next up, discuss bid for surplus property, the Hub City building. As you all know, we received one bid on that property that we continue to review, exploring our options. We know we have a few, and I guess I would suggest holding off at least one more week on declaring or declining that or accepting that quote to give us some more time to more adequately research what our options are and see what we can come up with. Anybody an objection to that?
Would it be all right if would you have a moment I can talk to you about that?
Sure.
I was kind of curious, I spoke with, the guy with the, I talked to the Harris guy the other day. It's a little more building than what he needs. When this was first gone through, when you guys purchased it, there's two parcels. The east building was originally built, and then the west building was added on, which is larger, a lot larger. I would entertain that you guys might be able to get more if you separated them, like the way you guys purchased it. And I would be interested in the east one, but I'm not sure how the legal process works, whether you can do that and re-advertise and rebid and things like that. The reason I didn't bid originally on the whole thing is because I didn't think that would be in that ballpark. You guys would get 6-8 million or something crazy that was way out of my budget. So,
Okay.
I had talked to the economic development guy, Lockerney.
Yep.
And before the bidding process, and I said, hey, do you know anybody that would be, or even you guys, would you guys be willing to partner? Because I'd like the east one. And he said, no. So I've been kind of scraped off a few times trying to, make a partnership or something with someone, but I just thought that might be an idea for you guys, maybe get some more money out of it.
Sure. That's another option for us to consider, and I guess that's why we're gonna hold off at least another week before we make our decision, so, thank you. Anyone else on that? If not, we will...
I'd just like to say that, regardless of what happens with the building itself, I think it's still a viable option. The problem is it would take $20 million to build it out, the initial phase to house the projected plan that we have. And regardless of how we move forward with this, our problem is not being addressed. Capacity in our jail is currently at 48. We all got the numbers this morning. Over time the note came out, 543. Today's numbers are 59. we're over capacity. It's still an issue that needs to be dealt with. However, it is, we're gonna try and do that. And I expect with the holiday weekend coming up, those numbers are gonna go down and back up again by next week, which puts a tremendous strain on our staff as well as our ability to be able to do the things that we need to do safely. We've got way more than that number that's out on release, 24/7 program, ankle monitors and the rest of that stuff. So the folks in the judiciary side of the house, as well as parole and probation, as well as our staff are working very hard. The folks, whether it's short-term or long-term, and I've mentioned that before, that the extended stays that we have continue to go up for a variety of reasons in addition to the short-term things. So the problem is still real, and it's something that we need to address regardless of how, this piece of property goes. So just wanted to make sure that we're all continue to be aware of that.
Couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
All right, so we will again postpone the decision on what to do with that piece of property for at least another week.
Wayne?
Go ahead, Dennis.
I guess, as much as we know that to remodel a building that was purchased, you're gonna be in that, I'm gonna guess, they're saying 27 million. My guess is that we really don't know. But my suggestion, and was from the beginning, that you need to have an unbiased outside, take quotes from a company that would actually give you, the commission, the county, solid numbers as to what a new facility would cost. State-of-the-art wiring for IT, state-of-the-art air exchange, all of those things, and have the design so that it can be added on. Make an 80-bed facility, decide what size facility you want, design it so that it can be added on to. I mean, this thing that the county bought is a silage bunker with a roof on it, and I mean, it's a disaster. You can't go out there and remodel that thing, as much as the commission was sold on the idea that it's this great, wonderful building. Well, wow. There's no way of knowing what a remodel job's gonna cost. Get somebody, an outside, unbiased number as to what the design and a facility would cost. Just a suggestion.
Thank you, Dennis. Here we have a motion by Weiss to postpone the decision for another week. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Feldheim. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Approve and authorize chairman to sign the agreement with Titles of Dakota. It was in the packets.
We did the other one with Brown County Title, or whatever the new one is. They had their council look at it. They sent back some small changes that were mostly my grammar errors. So we thought we should run it through again, but there's nothing substantially different.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Weiss.
Second.
Second by Denner to approve the agreement with Titles of Dakota. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up is our consent calendar. Lynn?
Approval of the general meeting minutes from June 20th.
Move.
Motion by Weiss.
Second.
Second by Feldheim. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Claims.
Move.
Second.
Motion by Weiss, second by Gage. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
HR report.
Move. Second.
Motion by Feldheim, second by Dennert. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Set hearing date and authorize advertising for the rezone.
Motion by Gage, second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Township bond.
Move. Second.
Motion by Feldheim, second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Travel request.
Move. Second.
Motion by Dennert, second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Claim assignment.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Gage. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Lease agreement.
Move.
Second.
Motion by Weiss, second by Dennert. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Authorize advertising public hearing for special event liquor license.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Feldheim. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Any other business to come before the Brown County Commission this morning? We've had a request to go into executive session for personnel, contracts, and legal. If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Move.
Motion by Weiss, second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are in exec. All right. The lights back on. We are back in session. Out of exec. No action as a result. There's three of us here. The other two are still on break.
Move to adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
Feldheim moves to adjourn, second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.